Most people, let's face it, struggle with aim. So if we can help make their aim, one, more consistent, or make their aim, two, improved and a tighter dispersion closer to where they think they're going to hold more putts. We can do that through length, and then we go in and look at the lie and loft. Through those adjustments, we can really understand that they're going to be able to recreate a consistent setup when they leave. But now they can use the putter as the foundation when they go to the golf course. Okay, I'm going to set up around that. Whereas before, if I've got a 30-inch putter for a guy that's 6 feet, he's going to have to go in and constantly adjust in his hand position, his posture, to adjust that to try to find something each time. We want to really create a nice balanced setup around those three main areas, and then we can go in and start looking at the putter design, the grip, the weighting, and how those components can play a role in really helping you square the face, helping you aim the putter, helping you create better tempo. There is a lot to it. It's a tough part of the game, right?
Golf Smarter, number 768. Why putter fitting is more important than you've been led to believe, with Cody Hale of Seymour Putters.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast. Cody?
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back on the show. How have you been, buddy?
It's been very good. Been very busy, which is always a nice thing.
Yeah, well, I know that you just got back from a trip, so I really appreciate it. I know that you were like, let's schedule this for after I return. And it's like, yeah, and you're getting back and you probably have hundreds of emails sitting there waiting for you. So I really appreciate you spending some time with us. So what's new? What's going on at Seymour?
So we've, with everything going on, it's been a great year. Obviously, we've had.
Has it really? Fabulous.
It's, the start of the year was obviously a little tough. I think everyone could say that, obviously, with obviously the pandemic going on. But with golf being one of the activities that most people can get out and do, I think with so many rounds being played this year, that's helped a lot of the industry, and we've seen so many new golfers come into it. That's helped, not only helped introduce people to the game, but it's also helped sales. So the last few months has been obviously really good. The summer was really good. So we had some new product released at the start of the year, and we're continuing that through obviously 2021. So we're really excited about that.
Excellent. How's the podcast going?
Podcast is really good.
The Putting Couch. I always want to say the Putting Coach, the Putting Couch podcast.
The Putting Couch. Yeah, we're almost to 40 episodes. It's fun.
Wow.
We just talk about anything and everything putting, and Jim, Ted, and I, and then we try to have a lot of unique guests on, and try to, we obviously it's brought to you by Seymour, but we try to keep it, very general in terms of like if you're, maybe you're not a Seymour user, you can still get a lot out of it in terms of helping your game.
Sure. I enjoy it. I'm glad you guys are doing it. I'm curious, as a product person, what's going to happen with the PGA Merch Show this 2021? What have they said? I know nothing about it.
Yeah, so we just got word that it's going to be virtual. I don't know a ton of details about that, but that's going to be really interesting. So a lot of emails starting to come across about some type of virtual presence that they're going to have, and we'll see. Yeah,
because the biggest part of the merchandise show each year is demo day. And I don't think you can do that virtually.
Seeing and testing product, that's going to be a little different, right? I mean, I think they're going to, and that's what's going to be unique is how this is all going to work in terms of, setting up meetings and doing all this virtual. Because so many, you have so many companies that are releasing new product, and everybody's excited about getting out and putting their hands on it and seeing it firsthand there. And it's always a great place to go reconnect with so many people in the industry that, now it's going to be really unique. But we'll just see how it works out in January.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. We'll keep our eyes and ears open for that, because I don't know if you're going to see a lot of new products being released, or you are. It's going to be interesting at the very least. You mentioned that you guys had some new product released this year. Like what?
So we introduced in January of this year, we released what we call the RST hosel, which was basically a plumber neck version. So an offset version for our product line. So there's 7 new models, and we, like I mentioned, we call that the RST hosel. So it was a really unique sort of area for us to dive into, because we've moved into some offset putters, but we really wanted to expand our market. We don't want to. We've always, our core has been straight near center shaft putters, but we've always had a few products that have been able to be offered in offset for those players that either want that type of visual or need their hands a little further forward or need that type of dynamic offering. So we really wanted to put an emphasis on, there's still many players out there, even at the tour level, that putt with some type of plumber neck. So we wanted to have players that really enjoyed using that type of system to be able to take advantage of our technology. For those players that felt like that they have not been able to, hey, I use a plumber neck, but Seymour doesn't make something for it. That's where we wanted to open up our market to, are those type of players. So we went in and created what we call the RST hosel. It's a one plane plumber neck that still gives you the visual of that offset, but it goes in on a single plane, so it sort of acts like a straight shaft. It still gives you all the benefits of the rifle scope, but just allows you to set your hands just a little bit more forward than, say, a normal straight center shaft putter. So we offer that to 7 putters for this year.
Wow. Now, RST obviously is your rifle scope technology, but explain to me, because I'm pretty much have always been focused as a center shafted mallet guy. So I'm not sure what a plumber neck means. So if you can explain that to. Yeah,
that's a great question, because I think most people, to give you a sort of a mental picture, most people are familiar with like the putter Tiger putts with, just the sort of gooseneck type, head. So it's that offset is what we call a plumber neck. So it's sort of that sort of neck is what we're referring to when we do that.
So it's the end of the shaft. So end of the shaft, and then it goes a little bit of a right angle, and then back down to another right angle. Two right angles.
Basically makes an L shape, a reverse L shape. Yes. So it creates about a 3/4 to a full shaft of offset, just in a very structured way. You have a lot of shafts that have that double bend or flow to it that's not extremely sort of perpendicular to the face, that it's just a flow. This is more very precise look, like you get with your Newport style putters or your Ping Answers that you've seen for so many years. That's the style hosel that we're referring to. And you still see a lot of players that use that. And it's not to say we want to take somebody away from our core. We just want that to complement the rest of our line and be able to expand our offering. And that's why we created that for 2020. And it's going to be really carrying into 2021, because it's still so new, because it was really sort of delayed with COVID. It hit February, March, April, as so many stores were, had to close down because of all the restrictions in place. It was still sort of a new product as we're going into the winter months, and will be next year will sort of be the first full year we'll have, those products in place. And they're really, really neat to look at, because it's, like I said, it's really innovative, because most plumbers' neck, as they come up out of the putter head, they go up at 90 degrees, and then the bucket that holds the shaft is what creates the lie angle, right? So it tilts back, and that's what creates your lie angle that the shaft's on. These are all on one plane where it goes straight into the head, and then you'll notice if you check out our website or whatever, but it's a one plane, so it gives you all the improved sort of feel and balance benefits of a straight shaft putter, because we can move the borehole placement up a little bit instead of having it so far in the heel.
And what's the advantage to the golfer? Is this all, and a lot of putting is just how it feels when you're standing over the ball. But does this plumber neck offer any type of advantage that a straight shaft wouldn't?
I think it's more for, a player that's going to prefer their hands to set more on top of the golf ball or a little bit more forward. As I mentioned, we still are, big proponents of straight near center shaft putters. You've seen most of our championships and, career earnings for our company have been won with a putter that's basically a center shaft, straight shaft putter. And that's what our core is. And that we still feel like there's so many tremendous alignment and balance benefits in a putter like that, and dynamic benefits. But there's still so many players that do enjoy having their hands a little farther forward or seeing that little bit of offset in there. And so that's what that offers. So a player who maybe struggles with their hand position or from a setup standpoint, then they have that type of offering to be able to get, have the offset to be able to put them in that place. So that's why they would go that direction.
How many different styles of putters are there as far as affecting the shaft like that?
So for this year, we've got 7 different styles that will be able to offer that. And you can actually, in those styles, you can actually install a straight shaft, a double bend, and that plumber neck all in the same head. So, you can really change the setup of that putter. So, you've got a lot of really cool offerings in just one head shape.
Is that when you say you had 7 different models? Is that 7 different heads?
That is 7 different heads.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I got you. All right. Well, let's ponder this for a moment. We'll take a time out right here, and we'll be back with Cody Hale of Seymour Putters after this. Cody, tell me what it is that you do for Seymour Putters, because I know that we were talking earlier and you mentioned entertaining customers. And I know that in the past you've been going on the tour mm-hmm. and talking to people and whatnot, which probably didn't really happen this year. So tell me about what your specialty is over at Seymour.
I do a little bit of everything, whatever I'm told to do. So my title is I'm director of tour operations and director of Seymour Putter Institute. So basically I manage all the tour operations. So yes, on a normal year, I'm traveling with the tours, whether it's the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour, some LPGA, and then facilitating all their needs, whether it's fitting, building, whatever they need, helping work with them from a lesson standpoint, and then when I'm not on the road, I do handle all of our fittings in here as sort of a little before and after hours type deal. So I a lot of testing. I do, we have customers and clients come in here for full scheduled fittings. So I'll take them through a full fitting. I have Sand Putt Lab, I have Cap Toe, I have Blast Motion that I can take them through a full fitting session. And then from that, I also run, like, my day-to-day is managing, all of our, for a while until we hired another gentleman, John Higgins. I was handling all of our worldwide training and sort of sales support. So all of our national accounts, all of our green grass. So any training or like product assortment sort of ran through me. So I would create all of our training programs, and then an instructor would want to come on board as a fitter. I would create the assortments for him that says, hey, here's what I would put into your facility here and what you're trying to do. Here's what your need is. I would put these 8 putters in to start with, and then let me help you get you trained, understand the product, and then give them a platform to start teaching and fitting with Seymour. So I handle all that from the ground up. And then, like the product you see in PGA Tour Superstore or Edwin Watts, I work with all their main buyers to handle the product assortments for the year, training, marketing, anything you think of. So I work with Jim, and then thankfully we hired John Higgins this year a few months ago to help me with all that.
So you'll work with individuals, you'll work with tour players, you'll work with retailers, you work with big box stores, you work with other manufacturers. I mean, anybody wants to talk about Seymour putters and get one in their hand, you're in front of the line to talk to them.
Yeah. So
you're just sitting there nodding your head. You did a long answer, but you were sitting there nodding your head like, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. So any type. So anything from, just a normal, customer who calls in. So we've got a customer service and sales team that, obviously is the front line. But, if we have a player that wants to come in for a full fitting, then we offer that here. So he can come in and I'll take him through, whether it's a junior, a lady, a beginner, all the way up to a tour player. I'll run them through here. But I do that. I try to do that, before and after hours, because we've got so many other things going on. But it's an awesome thing. I probably do close to 150 to 200 of those a year through here. And obviously you've seen my studio behind me. And that's really a neat thing for me, because I really enjoy staying on top of that, because as the fitters and instructors that I'm training and our retail partners and our fitting, there's a lot of, Club Champion, True Spec, a lot of those partners that we have. If they have questions on how to fit our product, I can stay on top of the technology. I can stay on top of the processes and work with those and understand, how to help them better.
So let's dig into getting fitted for putters a little bit. Plus, you mentioned 3 different types of tests that you run them through, and I couldn't write them down fast enough, and I'm not familiar with them. So let's spend 4 or 5 minutes, whatever, talking about what a putter fitting is, because so many times that I've been into the local retailer or a pro shop, there, and you say, so what's the best kind of putter? They said, whatever you feel comfortable looking down at. It's like, oh, that was helpful. But it's got to be more than that.
Sure. It's, putter fitting obviously becoming more prominent in the last, 5 years, 4 to 5 years. And we've always tried to put a major focus on that. But it's, you really, as a putter fitter and getting a putter fitting, you really need to understand what the right length, loft, and lie are as the foundation, right? Because those are, your length is your measuring device for how you're going to get set up the same way every time. So it's important, because if you've got the wrong length, let's say, for instance, you're a player who's, I'm just throwing out, for example, if you're 6 feet and you're putting with a 30-inch putter, obviously. So you're going to form your setup and your posture to that putter. Well, what that can do is it can change your visual perception. It can change your posture, and it can put you in a compromising position to where you don't have the same mobility as you would in a better, call it more athletic, I like to call it a balanced setup. So we try to find a balance between that and really get you in the proper length to where you create stability in your lower body, mobility in your upper body, to where you can swing the putter with least amount of manipulation. So to me, it starts with trying to find the right length that's going to put you in, the best setup for that individual player, the right, correct eye position that's going to create the same posture tilt where you see your target the best, because most people, let's face it, struggle with aim, right? So it's the number one thing we see. So if we can help make their aim, 1, more consistent, or make their aim, 2, improved and tighter dispersion closer to where they think they're going, they're going to hold more putts. So, a lot of that starts, we can do that through length, and then we go in and look at the lie and loft. And then, through those adjustments, we can really understand that they're going to be able to create or recreate a consistent setup when they leave. Okay, we've got those components. And now they can use the putter as the foundation when they go to the golf course. Okay, I'm going to set the putter flat. I'm going to build my setup around that, right? Whereas before, if I've got a 30-inch putter for a guy that's 6 feet, he's going to have to go in and constantly find out, he's going to be constantly adjusting his hand position, his posture, to just being able to adjust that to try to find something each time. So we want to really create a nice balanced setup around those 3 main areas. And then we can go in and start looking at the putter design, the grip, the weighting, and how those components can play a role in really helping you square the face, helping you aim the putter, helping you create better tempo. So, there is a lot to it. It's a tough part of the game, right? But if we can, it really is. But if we can simplify it a little bit, and then, find something that people say you got to like the way it looks. Well, you do it to some extent, but it also has to fit you. And it's sort of like, not everybody wears a size 8 shoe, right? Or size 40 regular, jacket. You really want to make sure that it's set up for you, and then you're going to be able to really create a higher ceiling for improvement going forward. And to us, it's always been about long-term consistency versus just a Band-Aid fix.
Mm-hmm. And so what are those 3 different methods for fitting somebody, or that you talked about? We have this. I heard Sandput Lab. Right?
Oh, sorry for the technology. Yeah. So I use Sandput Lab mostly because I've got a studio here and I don't have to move it around. But I've got Sandput Lab for a stroke analysis, right? That way we're not guessing. We have metrics that we can look at and really understand, okay, here's exactly what you're doing. So Sandput Lab, I have a Capto system, which is, does a lot of the same measurements. We're measuring face angle, aim, tempo, stroke path, rotation, those kind of metrics. And then blast motion, which is, really good for tempo. So, some of those are more mobile. So if you need to go out to the golf course, Capto and blast motion are really more mobile. So anyway, you've got a lot of pieces of technology, and those are great for, like I said, being able to capture data and not having to guesswork and say, oh, I think we're doing this. No, we know what we're doing here. And then we can start making the necessary adjustments to help you improve and create that game plan for you.
And for those who've not heard about Seymour putters, the secret sauce, the magic behind Seymour putters is your RST, what we discussed earlier, rifle scope technology, which I'm a huge fan of. Explain it, please.
Rifle scope technology, red dot and 2 white lines on the back of every Seymour
putter.
Explanation.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. It's the foundation. It's really neat because rifle scope technology for a Seymour putter. There's so many brands out there that, and I'll say this generally, that change their marketing story every single year, whether it's face technology or whether it's the material or whatever it may be. Seymour stayed true to their technology story. It's rifle scope technology has been on a Seymour putter since the late 90s, and it stays true because it reinforces helping you get set up the same way on every putt. It gives you a system for feedback to be able to know whether you're getting set up consistently by the red dot and the 2 white lines on the back of every single Seymour putter. So it's the white lines. You frame the shaft in between the 2 white lines, and if you start to see that red dot, your shaft may be a little off or your body may be a little off. So it really allows you to get set up the putter and the putter to get set up to the hole. So it allows you to know that you have consistent aim, consistent shaft position, consistent loft, consistent ball position for every putt. So we always like to say it's whether you put a Seymour putter in play or you practice with it, it's a great training tool. It's a phenomenal system for feedback that reinforces great fundamentals. And that's what great putters do a lot of times. I mean, look at them at the tour level. They don't do something just insanely crazy. I mean, yes, Dustin Johnson just hits, bombs out there and he's a great iron player and he's putting well as of late, but those guys do the smallest things at an elite level, meaning that they reinforce their fundamentals. You watch them, how they practice, and they do the smallest things at an elite level. Well, this is helping you reinforce your fundamentals at a very high level, making sure you're getting square to the putt, square to the target line, making sure your aim is, consistent, making sure your loft is the same. If you can control loft, then you can control how the ball is going to come off rolling with the same speed. So all those things are extremely important, and rifle scope technology is, what the foundation for Seymour is all about. It allows the golfer to have a system on the back of the putter that's conforming right to the rules of golf. So you can play with it in tournaments, you can practice with it. So it's really a unique opportunity to be able to take to the golf course, because if you don't practice every single day to be able to reinforce that, you don't go out to the golf course and you practice your aim and practice your stroke. This allows you, hey, if you practice once a month, you go out there, you can get set up the same way because you have that red dot and the white lines to tell you, okay, boom, once I set it down, I'm here. I know I've got it set up. And then that allows you just to paint the picture and putt to it.
That's the thing that's always impressed me about the Seymour putter is that putting is so much about confidence. And the fact that you can be, once you figure out what your line's going to be, you're kind of locked in. And then it's just a matter of speed. And that's just practice.
That is. It's hopefully it does give you the confidence to know that you've eliminated a lot of variables, because most players we're always messing with the ball position or our hand position to see, right. Like once we miss a putt, it's always like, was I lined over there or did I pull it? Well, hopefully that, if you start in the same position consistently, and that's what the rifle scope technology on Seymour putter is doing, is helping you start in the same position, then you can start to develop a very consistent pattern with your putting stroke that allows you to return the putter there. Well, then you can start to see where that ball's starting. So if you can have a consistent starting line, you're going to start to hole a lot of putts. And I always, talk about 4 things that are, really non-negotiable to be a good putter. I mean, you do them however you want to do them, but you've got to aim the putter reasonably well, and you need to aim it consistently. You've got to start the ball in your intended line. You got to read greens well, and you got to hit it with the right speed. And those are components of being a really great putter. And if you can start in the same position, it's going to give you a great opportunity to do some of those things.
Let's take another time out. We'll be right back. You kind of dropped Dustin Johnson's name a few minutes ago, and during the Masters, wasn't November Masters awesome? But during the Masters, the announcers were joking about the fact that the loft on DJ's putter is probably less than his driver, or was it more than his driver? But his driver, doesn't have a lot of loft, nor does his putter.
That's probably right. And hopefully it's less.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's less. But that's probably right. And he was, I've seen him. I didn't get to watch a lot of it. I was out of town, but as I came back in, I got to watch Sunday, and I watched him, practicing a lot. And, they were talking about some of the things he was working on. And it's really, it's nice to see him. He's putting in a lot of targeted or extremely targeted practice. I mean, he's really putting a focus on a couple key areas, squaring up his shoulders and, a couple of the things you saw it in his routine, what he's working on. And, that's important. Those are just, fundamental setup, ideas that he's working on. And it seems to be paying off. I mean, he putted really well. And, with those greens so quick, you're talking about loft, you need to have the ball launch. You need to have that ball rolling on the ground. You don't want to have a lot of loft, especially as agronomy has changed over, the last 20 years. The greens have gotten so quick that, loft, our standard loft's 2.5. So you want something that launches the ball very consistently, that comes off with the same speed. And, great putters have great speed control. And he obviously did that really well.
I want to go back again. We were talking about getting fitted, and I want to know is how are you guys doing remote fittings, or can you?
You can, yeah. We've done a few. They're obviously a little more challenging, but with such great technology these days, I mean, Zoom, you can have a player in their house or even on the putting green out there hitting putts and watching them. So that's the nice thing. It's a lot easier to do that than just talking on the phone, because we can actually watch them actively hitting putts and talking about setup. And you can really start to, get an idea for what those, like I mentioned, those sort of key areas of length, loft, lie, then you can have the conversations of, grip and head style, what directions you want to go. So yes, I mean, we definitely have sort of moved in that direction and have done a lot more remote fittings. And a lot of our instructors that we have in our Seymour Putter Institute have also mentioned the same thing. They're doing a ton of virtual, sort of virtual fittings. And it's, it's sort of neat that if a player has, Blast or, any of these technologies, they can run it on there. And now, a lot of times you can see the results on your phone, and because the apps will, sync up, and that's really neat. And or they can share it with you. And then you can start to, understand, hey, here's what they're doing on those 5 putts, and we can make some recommendations off of that. So yeah, it's a sort of game changer if they can't come see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Does Seymour have any players on LPGA or PGA Tour playing Seymour these days?
So
we recognize Seymour?
We have a few. It's sort of been unique this year because obviously they've changed all the sort of the way all the precautions out there and the way the tour works. So it's been obviously difficult. My travel has not been nearly as much this year, so I haven't been out there. You're not able to set up a bag. Your interactions are a lot more limited. But yeah, I mean, we still do maintain several players out on each one of the tours. I think we as far as we still don't pay or endorse any players. Obviously over the years, some of the most notable guys that have used it.
Jack Johnson.
That's right. Yeah.
And Payne Stewart.
That's right. Von Taylor's, and
I'm sure
won a couple of times with it. Oh yeah. And, and that's really cool because we, won 3 major championships, won, over 30 times on tour and the multiple tours. And, what's really cool, Brant Jobs obviously won multiple times on the Champions Tour, had a great, year this year with the Seymour putter. And so, we just continue trying to support those guys in ways that we were able to with not being able to be out there as much as we normally are. So, you mentioned virtual. We've done a few of those with some of these tour players this year. So that's sort of cool. We've been able to stay in touch with them and been able to send them product to where they've been able to test and get it in their hands still without, having to be out there every week since we haven't been able to.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we've learned here on Golf Smarter this year is lie angle balanced putters. Bill Pressey, Sam Hahn from Lab Golf. We had a couple conversations with him, and we've heard of face balance, the different balancing techniques that they have, but then they have this thing called the revealer that shows that when if you're not holding the putter parallel to the ground, it's not it'll be balanced nice and wonderful when it's parallel to the ground, but when you're swinging it, it's not necessarily the case. And I wanted to talk to you about it mainly because I just want to get, you go to a specialist, you ask for a second opinion, right? So doctor, help me on this. What is your assessment, your opinion? And we're not here to slam anybody else's putters. I'm just curious about the technology that we're talking about. And how you understand it and how you see it, and if Seymour has something similar or has reacted to it. Mm-hmm. A lot of questions. I apologize. Let's just start with.
Yeah. So, lie angle balance, torque free, we call something face balanced at impact. There's a lot of terms for it.
Balance at impact.
Face balanced at impact or balance to plane. We've used those couple pieces of terminology over the years. So it's one of the things you're starting to see dynamic wise become more prominent in the last few years. And the reason I say that is, we've talked about this since, late, 2007, 8, 9. But we've had it in our putters, what we call face balance at impact, since the late 90s. Payne Stewart used a putter of what we call face balance at impact, the FGP that's basically center shaft, blade style putter. So, what you're referring to is most players or fitters, or the industry for that matter, has been taught to measure a putter, whether it's sitting on a table or your finger on a 90-degree angle, and look at how the toe falls. So, for instance, we look at toe hang. And if the toe falls straight to the ground or points straight to the ground, we consider that full toe hang. Or if the face points towards the sky, we consider that face balance. And then in between there, we consider those degrees. So halfway in between there would be considered a 45-degree toe hang. But one of the things that a lot of, we sort of determine is that, players don't putt on that angle. You putt on a 68, 72, 70, 72 degree line angle, you putt on an inclined tilted plane, right? So that putter's not reacting the same way as what you're measuring on that table or on your finger. So what we started to understand and do a little research on the putter is that when we look at like the FGP or some of the other putters, what we consider face balance at impact, if you balance it on the angle you putt, that putter stays nice and square. And so that's where we coined the term face balance at impact. So it's different from face balance because face balance is measured on sort of that 90-degree angle on your finger or on the table where the face points towards the sky. Yes, that can be another terminology, and so many fitters have used that over the years. But really, we're looking at it from a standpoint to say, okay, if you're struggling with the putter face and you're struggling with your stroke and having inconsistencies, this may give you an opportunity because that putter, with it being balanced to the angle you putt, it may give you a greater opportunity to swing the putter in plane, meaning that the putter face doesn't over-rotate too much or under-rotate. You're going to swing the putter in plane, square to the path, and give you a better opportunity to return that putter face back to square more often. Versus if you have a putter that's not balanced to the angle, a really hill shafted putter with maybe a lot of, a big mallet, a lot of MOI that pulls the face open on that angle, you call that torque, right? It's got torque or opposing force pulling that. So even though you're applying a little bit of torque to the grip handle because you got pressure on it, right? You're holding it in your hands. So when that putter swings open, somebody's got to close it back, right? So when that happens, we as players tend to either you can apply more grip pressure. You don't know. You're gonna make some type of timing adjustment possibly in order to do that. So, that's why I think you see players. You've seen players over the years use putters that are not torque balanced or face balanced at impact. They've had great success. They play a lot. They practice a lot. They put a lot of time. They're extremely talented, right? You can putt with a putter that's not face balanced at impact, but it's engineered in a way where it's really supportive, where it can give you players who really struggle a greater opportunity to return that putter and really not have to do as much work to get it back to square. I love the idea of a balance to plane, face balance at impact, torque-free putter, low torque putter to allow you to just help not have to really time that putter up, because even though you may have the feel one day, what about the next? And then the next, and then the next, because you're gonna have to recreate that feel. If you already have something that's balanced, that's one less sort of variable you don't have to think about. So, from my perspective, you have a lot of options out there. There's a lot of great putters with anything. It's just another dynamic that you can take advantage of if you're struggling and looking for that competitive advantage.
Awesome. Hey, I want to take a moment right now to tell our audience about this week's upcoming Golf Smarter Mulligans episode. So we'll be back after that. Well, if you are a fan of Golf Smarter and also enjoy hearing episodes that are as relevant to lowering your scores and raising your golf IQ as they were when they were first published, then don't miss Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insights from the best instructors featured on Golf Smarter. This week is part one with legendary club designer Jess Ortiz, who was made famous when he and his father created the very first fairway medals for Orlimar. Remember those? Here's just a taste of what you'll hear in this conversation with Jesse.
I kind of go against the grain of the industry now. All the clubs are designed on CAD-CAM, and you can tell that. Our clubs are tooling. The clubs go through a CAD-CAM digital process before they go into tooling. But I still make all the masters by hand, grind them out, and then just before the clubs go into tooling, I regrind the masters that come out of the computer, because the computer can never duplicate what the eye sees. And even though the computer can digitize my masters, it's never right. And I'm one of the few guys left in the industry that takes a CAD-CAM designed master and regrinds it, because I just don't trust what comes out of the computer. So I take a lot of pride that my clubs always look good at the address position. I'm a dinosaur.
That's episode 84 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, featuring part 1 with Jess Ortiz of Bobby Jones Golf, being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please subscribe. And when you do, you'll be notified immediately when a brand new episode of either has downloaded to your favorite podcast app. Well, thank you very much for that explanation. That really helps me a lot. I hope people understand that too. So with face balance at impact, is that built into all of the Seymour putters, or is it unique to specific head designs? Or does the shaft get involved in that design at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And hopefully that wasn't too crazy. Hopefully you can understand that. But
I'll go back and listen to it 2 or 3 more times. Yeah. Take notes.
So it is. So the shaft placement, the weight distribution of the head, all play a huge role in creating a putter that's, whatever, low torque, all the terminologies that come in, but ultimately a putter that is balanced to the angle that you putt on. You really have to have the shaft placement. You got to have the weight distribution right. So it's a huge, you really have to have the design right. So for us, it's a lot of our, small blade designs, that are going to be in that category. A few of the smaller mallets are going to be a lower torque version that are going to be a lot closer to it. As you go into the bigger mallets, then those aren't going to be quite as close to face balance impact. So not all the putters are. They all have rifle scope technology. So it's, that's just rifle scope technology is obviously the core. And then you have this other sort of technology that if you need a little bit of help, so like the putter Zach Johnson's used over the years, it's that would be sort of a version of a face balance at impact putter. So on a simple term, it's just a putter that is, face balance at impact, a putter that, or torque free or lying on balance, is a putter that balances on the angle you putt and, just can help you really swing the putter in plane without really having to feel like you control the putter and manipulate the putter against opposing forces. And for some people that it works extremely well. And like I said, for some, it can continue building a higher ceiling. The more you do it, the more consistent you get. And, like I mentioned, for some players, watched Zach putt for years, and you just saw how well he kept his putter on plane. And he just, I think that could have been one of the reasons. Not only he's a great putter, very talented, but that dynamic just sort of helps promote that too.
And so I've been playing the last couple of years with the Seymour M5X. Now, is that too big of a mallet to incorporate that?
So with that back, it's not quite a face balance at impact putter just because of the backing. So it's a bigger, larger mallet. But with that shaft placement, would be considered sort of a lower torque mallet. So it's, if you measured it on there, it would open up a little bit. But yeah, it's still a tremendous mallet that doesn't require a lot of effort to sort of get it back to square on that plane. A mallet that if you shifted the shaft position way back in the heel and then you had all that weighting, that perimeter weighting on the toe, that's when you start to get a lot of sort of play and that putter, that toe really opens up. And then, you sort of have the swing and door effect, or the next compensation is a lot of players sort of pull the putter head across and have that swipe in motion in order for them to square the face. We see that a lot. And so, you don't really think about it, but it is, a really cool sort of technology that fitters can use, and we've used and seen a lot of success out of, because if you're looking at trying to, one, help square the putter face up a little bit easier, take timing out, and just make it a little bit easier and stuff, it definitely works.
So does that mean that you get less torque on center shafted putters versus heel shafted putters?
Depending on the way they're set up, it's all about, like I said, all about weight distribution. So some of these, the way the putter's engineered, you can do some really crazy things now with the way where the shafts go in. So it just depends on the design. With ours, yes, you're going to see more with the shaft being more towards the center. That's where that's going to end up. That's going to play a role. And then, you always are going to have a little torque when you put your hands on it. So you're going to have a little pressure to help stabilize that and help, to control that. And so hopefully what that does is it helps, allow you to maintain your grip pressure through the stroke and not have a putter to where you feel like you take it back and then you really have to clamp down on the putter to really try to manipulate that face back to square. So it's just a whole combination of helping you really get the putter face back to square and create a more consistent putting stroke.
Well, as we talked about briefly earlier, is that I love the way it looks when I'm standing over it. I really like the look of my putter. And it makes me feel very comfortable. It's not too big. It's not a blade, which I've never been comfortable with. I really like the look of it. Does that mean there are unique swing elements to I'll go just with mine because that's all I really can talk about is to a center shafted mallet like this? I mean, are there things that I should know about in my swing or in my setup that are unique to the Seymour putters?
With Seymour, I think it's, using rifle scope technology is going to help you the most, right? Is that you're going to be able to get set up the same way. That's going to create really a consistent stroke in itself. And from there, we move the putter. So a lot of times it's about like I said, I think the most important part is getting in a really good setup and getting the length, the loft, the lie. And then we can get into that dynamic of the head and making sure that putter's getting back to square and making sure, but you really have to get the components of that in place first. It's sort of like building the foundation of a house versus starting with the roof of the house. So we're gonna get that set so that our foundation's strong and then build around that. So for you, I think it's, we set the foundation, but your putter, I think you're using the M5X. That's a phenomenal putter. And with that shaft placement there, to me, that's a really, just a really well-balanced mallet putter, a larger mallet putter.
Here's an interesting one. Should the ball be in the center of my stance when I'm setting up, or should the shaft be in the center of my stance with the ball a little bit forward in my stance?
That's a good question. Ideally, and a lot of this depends on weight distribution in your feet, left and right. So if you're balanced, let's say you're balanced left and right, 50-50. Okay. And maybe you're a right-eye dominant player or a right-eye dominant person. In a perfect world, I'd like to see the ball just forward to middle. So you have the putter face shaft in the middle. The ball's just forward of that. So why is that? Well, if you were to swing the putter, let's say around one pivot point, meaning, the butt of the shaft will revolve around one pivot point around, let's just call it the center of the sternum as you swing it. The bottom of the arc will be just about the back of the putter. So when you come in and you make contact, the squarest point where that putter will be right at the point of impact. So you'll catch it just on the upswing with a putter face really square. If you move the ball back a little, so say the ball's in the middle and the putter's back. Now when you come in, you might catch that a little bit on the downswing with a little D-loft, and the putter face may not be quite as square. Conversely, move the ball forward in your stance off your left toe, and then you see a lot of players that are fighting the rotation and they're catching it really far on the upswing, 4 degrees, really far on the upswing, and the putter's already trying to rotate close, and then they're trying to steer it and hold it off. So one thing I really love is having the ball just forward to middle, so it's a really easy position for players just to let the putter head go, let it swing. They'll catch it right at the bottom of the arc with just a little bit of rise on the upswing with a putter face in the most squarest position. So just you just create the least amount of manipulation in that positioning. Yeah. So just forward a minute.
Okay. I'm so glad I asked. and the other thing that I find that I have trouble with, and I don't know if this is a problem or not, maybe I'm overthinking it, which is quite possible, is that when I set up to the ball, I know that I'm set up right to the ball is right in the center of the head of the putter because there's a line that leads me right to the ball. But when I hit the ball, I generally hit it closer to the toe and not the heel. How, with center shafted, how, when you mishit it, you don't hit it dead center, how does that impact the rolling?
So it could. So a lot of times that means the putter's moving left. So if you hit it off the toe, a lot of times with not seeing you have hit a putt, the putter's moving either down the line and a little to the left or a little out to in and across it. So that causes that impact spot to move more a little bit out to the toe. And that can affect ball speed. It can affect ball speed a little bit. It can affect deflection a little. So most of the time, if that happens, the putter face stays more open than it does closed, would be my guess, just from what we've seen.
Yeah, because I missed to the right a lot.
So what you can do a lot of times, just, as a drill, depending on the way it is, if you're out on the golf course, then you set, if you put your putter head down next to the golf ball, then you put you remember the gate drill that Tiger used to do? So
Sure.
You put a tee on each side. So you put a tee on each side, and then on the left-hand side where the follow-through side is, put 2 more tees. So, and then on the high side, the toe side, put 2 tees on the right. So you basically create a gate for feedback. So instead of moving the putter out to in, it's going to force you to move it on plane back a little inside and then move the putter more in to out, give you that feeling. So what it'll do is it'll shift the impact spot a little more centered and get the path moving more neutral.
Wow. Of all the conversations that I've had on the show, I don't know if we've ever talked about the in to out swing on a putt. We've talked endlessly about your in to out swing on a full swing, but rarely have we ever discussed it on a putt. That's fascinating.
It'll just get you moving it a little bit more neutral. So it's just a little gate drill. So what it does is it creates for players that swing it too much sort of in to out, then you would reverse that, right? You would move the tees to the toe side on the left, follow through, and then that way they don't pull the putter inside. They would hit the tees, right? So it'd make them pull it more on the backstroke and make them pull it back more straighter, and then they would follow through a little bit more left. So it's just balancing that out to keep the stroke a little bit more neutral, because in putting, it's not dynamic, meaning you can't curve the golf ball. So it's better to me to be closer to that neutral setup than it is to have a path moving 6-7 degrees out to in and you having to really time the putter face. So if we can get you to swing in the path a little bit more in a neutral, setup or on a neutral plane, then it's a lot easier for you to return that putter face back to square, because you really don't have to use your hands and wrist as much to time it up.
Awesome. Cody Hale, Seymour Putters, SEEMORE, Seymour.com, right?
That's correct. Seymour.com.
Okay. And the Putting Couch podcast.
Thank you for mentioning that. The Putting Couch podcast. We're almost up to 40. Not near you, but we're working our way.
Well, Cody, thanks so much for your time. I know that it's a crazy time for you to get back, and please give Jim all of our best. And thanks for your time, your insights, your information. It's always of value. Thanks, bud.
Always a lot of fun. Really appreciate it.
Not only do I want to be on the front end of wishing you a very happy holiday season, I also want to thank you for your kind words of support while I publicly struggle with my game. I need to give a shout out to listener David Kern for his long email exchanges of encouragement and sharing his tips on how to get past this tough time, at least what he did to do it for himself. Thank you, David. One of the driving ranges near me has a top tracer technology. Now, have you ever played at Topgolf? They have those special games. Well, they're now introducing it to driving ranges, top tracer technology, and it's awesome. This driving range, you're hitting off mats, but I'm okay with that. Anyway, one of the games that they offer is playing a full round at various courses around the world. So I played 18 simulated holes at Torrey Pines and had a great time. Thankfully. So I'm sure that I'll be playing again in real time soon, but need to get past the holidays first. And in the meantime, I've been recording a lot of interviews lately, and coming up, we're going to hear from the director of a new documentary that you may have seen on the Golf Channel called Muni, about the first course in North Carolina to desegregate and the lasting impact that it's had. Fascinating topic, great conversation with Paul Bonesteel. We'll also meet David Lake of One Iron Golf. If you listen to Mulligans, then you may have heard episode 76 with his father, David, talking about single-length irons probably 12, 13 years ago. Well, after I brought that episode back, I thought, now more than ever, we need to get an update. Well, I learned that Matt is taking over the company from his father, David. So we discussed the benefits and technology of single-length irons that Bryson DeChambeau has made one of the hottest topics of conversation for the 2020 Tour season. Now, Bryson doesn't play with one iron golf clubs, but these are the ones that we want to play if we're thinking of playing single-length irons. And I'm totally fascinated. I always have been. I think it's a great idea, but we need to talk to Matt first. So we'll do that. Also talking about the tour, we've scheduled to speak with Chip Beck. You remember that name? He's gone from being a 4-time PGA Tour winner that included shooting 59 in a sanctioned tour event to a very happy PGA instructor. And he wants to introduce us to a new app that he's been using called Perfect Motion, where you can get one-on-one instruction with him. And much more than that. There's a lot of apps out there training. We'll hear all about this one, Perfect Motion. And of course, as we close off the year, we'll have our annual Matty B Awards roasting the 2020 PGA Tour season. And oh boy, I'm sure Matty B has some opinions that will turn our heads and probably make us laugh. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on what you'd like to hear on an upcoming interview, I'd love to hear from you. Just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.